The treatment and safety of women has been a consistently rising topic of discussion, with the issue being spoken about in news stories, films and movements all around Australia, all with the aim of bringing attention to this growing problem in society. The most common form of abuse against women is family violence, a very common issue in Australia which takes the life of one woman a week at the hands of a current or former partner. Family violence is prevalent in today's society on a frighteningly large scale. But what exactly is domestic abuse or family violence? Is it only limited to physical abuse? How do you know when a relationship becomes abusive? And most importantly, what is being done about it? To find some answers, we head to Banyule Community Centre in Heidelberg and speak to Maxine Matthews and Dana Robson, both active members in their community who have dealt with family violence in the past on a personal level.
I'm Dana and I'm a General Counsellor working at Banyule Community Health. Banyule Community Health Centre is a primary health service and that provides medical services. We like to think of it as a wraparound service, don't we, so that people can get a lot of services under one roof and that it makes it easier for people to access services.
What sort of support do you specifically give men and women that are in a domestic or family violence situation if they were to arrive?
For the victim, which in most cases according to research is a female, we would offer counselling support. So it's a different sort of counselling. It's more about safety and I guess trying to support the victim where they're at. It's all about empowering them. We don't bully people into leaving relationships, but we talk about safety and ways to keep themselves safe. What's the best way, whether it's to have an intervention order in place, or whether it is to leave, or whether it's better the perpetrator leaves, or whether we can slot people into support groups because they get a lot of support from other women, sometimes more than you can just get in one-on-one counselling.
And what's your role here in the community? What do you do?
Here I'm a community rep where I sit on interview panels, and I'm a communications officer too. I'm a support worker. I help women, kids, at hospitals or police stations or courthouses. I work with the council. I always say that if you can help one person, then your job's done. You don't have to help 100 people, as long as you can help that one person and know that they're safe and you've empowered them to move on. Because not many people think that they're strong at the time, but they really are, but they just don't know it yet.
Have you had personal experience with family abuse?
Yeah. A lot of people think it's to do with the husband and the wife, but my situation was with one of my children when he got on the drugs and that. He had a few problems too, like he's got oppositional defiance order as well, but it just got too much for me with the drugs, and he was stealing off me and just smashing things when he couldn't get his own way, leaving needles everywhere, and at one stage he couldn't even walk on the floor.
And what did you do to get help for yourself? Were you able to at the time?
Not really at first, because when I did call the police, at first they would come, boom, about 10 minutes later, but then after a while, because the police know me, it'd go to 2 hours, and then I have to wait 4 hours, and then 7 hours, and it was like I could hear them say, oh, it's Max again, I wonder what they're arguing about. We'll give her a ring in the morning, you know what I mean? I remember one night I rang them, and I woke, because it was a Sunday, I remember so clearly, and all the lights were on, the music was loud, and I couldn't find my phone. He stole me other brand new phone again, and I had to walk all the way to Limpy Village Shops in a skimpy nightie to get out of the house. They made me wait on the corner for 2 hours. I said, he's down there, just go get him, just put him behind bars, will you? And I had him on one of the toughest intervention orders out, and 2 judges in the city put him back in my home knowing that.
To get some more insight on the details of abuse, we went to Women's Health in the North, or WIN as it's also known as. We spoke to Ada Conroy to get an insight on her expertise and experience regarding the issue of family violence.
So I'm Ada, and I'm the Senior Workforce Development Officer in the Family Violence team here at Women's Health in the North.
And what is the role of Women's Health in the North?
We do a number of different things. Our ultimate role is for women in the North to have voice, choice and power in relation to their health, wellbeing and safety. So So I train people on how to identify and respond to women experiencing family violence, and it's for workers, so for people who might be coming in contact with women in their daily work. And I also run training on how to respond to male perpetrators of family violence. You know, we can focus on women, and we always have, but unless we're having conversations with perpetrators as well, we're just not going to get anywhere. First of all, domestic violence or family violence is really gendered. So what that means is that overwhelmingly it's experienced by women and children at the hands of male perpetrators. So we define it as a pattern of coercive control, which means that the perpetrator is using behaviours in order to get power and control over the family. He'll do that in a number of different ways. So he'll ensure that the victims feel afraid of him. What ultimately ends up happening is that he has all the power and everybody else needs to do as they're told, and if they don't, there's consequences. And a lot of it involves emotional and psychological abuse, social abuse, economic abuse, absolutely physical and sexual abuse. And that it's so patterned that it's never a one-off. It's sort of, you know, a lot of women will talk about, you know, it's every day. And that when he's, you know, telling me that I'm beautiful and buying me flowers, it's the same thing as when he's telling me that I'm fat and ugly, or when he's assaulting me. Because with every interaction, he gains more power. Family violence is not taken as seriously as other crimes. And part of the reason for that is because there is a belief, I think, that that women are complicit because they stay. And so there's not a lot of understanding about why they stay. When she's preparing to leave or when she's left, it's the most dangerous time. So it's when she's most likely to be either killed or seriously injured. And the reason for that is because she's taking back some of that power that the perpetrator feels entitled to have. So she's most at risk of being killed when she's about to leave. And yet all we do is say, why doesn't she just leave? Not knowing that that could be the most dangerous thing that she does. I once had a client who said, you know, I stayed in this relationship for 15 years longer than I wanted to because I knew that if I left, that he would have access to those children on his own on the weekend, and I couldn't be there to keep them safe. So I stayed in that relationship for longer to keep my kids safe. Look, I worked in direct service for about 10 years, so working with women and kids, and I worked in crisis. So I was working with women and kids when they were at the point where their lives were in immediate danger. My job would be to provide them with refuge and counselling and outreach and all sorts of things, and that was amazing work. I loved it because what I was able to do was to be this safe space in amongst some really dangerous chaos, and the privilege of being able to provide that was overwhelming, and I loved it. Found though that it was very upsetting at times, and I had a client who was murdered, and that has just stayed with me. My focus really is about the safety of women and kids. So even though, yes, it's exhausting and it's hard work, I find it really rewarding because I have seen a change.